Often, whenever people recognize liberation or enlightenment, they become silent for a while. And this is because it becomes obvious that there is no ultimate difference between anything. And so the urge to speak, to try to change something about the apparent happenings, it falls away. It becomes obvious that it's not really worth mentioning. If there's no ultimate difference between what seems to be happening, if it's all the still undivided substratum appearing as distinct events unfolding, there is no real effect that's cast by what seems to be happening. It's empty. It's an insubstantial appearance. And so the urge to try to change anything about it just dissolves. And so people will go quiet. They recognize that radical acceptance leads to silence. But paradoxically, it's because there is no ultimate difference that talking can still seem to happen. And additionally, it becomes obvious that nothing was ever actually said. And so you might think, well, why talk then? There just isn't a why. If there's no difference, that doesn't mean that talking has to stop happening. There's just no difference. Whether talking is appearing to happen or not, it becomes obvious that there is only that substratum of absolute silence appearing as what is. And whether or not there's talking doesn't change that. It doesn't move that. So talking might appear to happen, or it might not. The difference is so subtle, you just can't judge it from another person. It's ultimately whether or not there's an identification with the happenings. If there's an identification with the speaking, with trying to make things happen, that identification is the egoic mind, the sense of separate self. But there's nothing wrong with that if that is what's arising. Again, that's just what is. That too is the silence appearing as egoic activity. And it bears no weight. It's equally empty. So there's just nowhere else to go. The karmic unfolding, or what seems to be happening, is going to play out by itself. Whether there's someone identifying with it or not, it's doing itself. So it's coming from a place of ignorance to judge it, to say there's something wrong with such and such in the ultimate sense. And paradoxically, again, there's nothing wrong with that ignorant position. There's no judgment whatsoever. It's all the unborn stillness, acting out the play of reality. And there's no one to take credit for it. talking, no talking, there's no difference. It's all silence, appearing to speak or not. It's the immutable essence of being that can't be taken away. It can't be changed or modified in any way. So if someone wakes up and they're not silent, if they appear to be just an ordinary individual who has desires, again, you can't really judge whether or not they're awakened. You can't really know if there's an identification with those actions. It's just old karma running off. And there isn't any particular likeness to awakening. It's absolutely free to appear as anything. This is one of the reasons why the Buddha discouraged his disciples from trying to judge other people's enlightenment. You just can't reliably do so. It's ironically everything. The other reason is because it's just a distraction from your own awakening. If you have your eyes on someone else's progress, how are you going to watch your own? Obviously, there isn't really progress, but relatively. You know what I mean? So there's nothing in particular to do or say about it, and yet doing and saying might still continue to happen. And that's just the reality of it.